You all must have heard about the story of Daniel in the den of lions. The question is not whether you know the story or not. The real question is whether you understood the key lessons of faith, courage, and divine protection. How would you think Daniel dared to fight the lions? How did his trust in God help him? What can we learn from this Bible chapter? If you are as curious as me to uncover this timeless truth, let us dive in without any further ado. Daniel was a young man, and he stood out among all the other people. He completely followed the path of faith, and he was pretty famous among the people. The king and all the people trusted and loved Daniel, even though he was a captive from Judah. Daniel had one of sharp and intelligent eyes. He always maintained a calm face, and people always respected him. Daniel always trusted and put all his faith in God, and he never stopped doing that in any circumstances. King Darius became really curious when he came to know about the wisdom of Daniel. There were 120 governors whom the king appointed, and Daniel was one of the 3 highest officials who were placed over the 120 governors. They made this decision after studying the character of Daniel, and he even had plans to promote him to higher positions. He planned to make him the ruler of the entire kingdom. In this, Daniel became a man with strong influence in Persia. But like always, not all people were happy. You all know how you attract that from certain people when you start achieving things. This is what happened here as well. Jealousy of other officers became a main problem for Daniel. Yes, because Daniel was getting more and more validation from the king than they were getting. And now he is close to becoming the ruler of Persia. All people respected Daniel, and he also always showed kindness to others. All these actions made other officials angry, and they soon started to plan something to trap Daniel. Just imagine the brilliance of Daniel that made King Darius decide that he could be the next ruler of Persia. The jealousy inside the hearts of other officials started to grow more after each passing day. They started looking for mistakes even in the smallest thing Daniel did. But nothing happened. Yes, they were not able to find a single mistake. Daniel did everything perfectly without any mistakes. This made the officials more uneasy. They were not able to sit and watch Daniel grow. Then it struck in their heads. They knew he followed the path of faith no matter what. The officials thought of using that same faith against him. They started to think of a way to trap him using his strength. His faith was so strong that no one could destroy it. But the officials did not step back. They knew that planning something against his faith was the only way to destroy him. Then they came up with a perfect plan. Their plan was to make the king make a law that allowed only the king to pray to any god for 30 days. They wanted the king to make this law since they knew that Daniel would bow to the god every day, even though he did not bow in front of any king. If the king signed the law, then Daniel had to obey this law no matter what. They approached the king and presented the idea of that law by saying that it would bring good to the kingdom. The king agreed to sanction this law without any hesitation. The king thought that this law would bring good to him. But he was unaware of the trap that they planned to destroy Daniel. Since the king approved the law, it was made official, and it was announced throughout the kingdom. Anyone who disobeys the law would be thrown into the lion's den. The law made tensions in the mind of Daniel. He won't be able to obey this law since his faith is much stronger than any laws made by anyone. The officials knew Daniel would not succeed in this, and they waited for Daniel to pray to the god. But they were not aware of the strength of Daniel. They thought they could put off the faith of Daniel through a storm. But what they didn't know was that Daniel's faith was 1,000,000 times stronger. Daniel saw God as a protector, a guiding light, and his strength. Daniel knew that he would not be able to obey this law. The next day, when the sun rose, he prayed to his God while facing Jerusalem. He knew that God would protect him. The officials were waiting for him to pray eagerly. As soon as they saw this, they rushed to the king to say what happened. They were so happy that Daniel broke the law. They got what they wanted. Yes, the officials finally found a mistake. One of the officials said to the king, "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, your majesty, or to the decree you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day." The king became distressed upon hearing this. All the trust that he had in Daniel was gone. He was really shocked to see Daniel disobeying the law that was sanctioned by the king. The king never expected Daniel to do such a thing. The officials were in a hurry to punish Daniel as soon as possible, and because of that, they gave no time for the king to process and think about everything. In Daniel 6:15 it says, "Then the men went as a group to King Darius and said to him, 'Remember, your majesty, that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no decree or edict that the king issues can be changed.'" Darius was deeply hurt, and he is in a position to punish someone who he has always loved and cared. He won't be able to save Daniel since he himself passed the law, and no one had the power to change it. Even the king won't be able to revoke the law that was once made. But in the evening, he commanded to bring Daniel and put him in the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." Daniel was not afraid. He did not have any anger in his face. All he had that time was his trust in God. Daniel was then taken to the lion's den. It was dark inside it, and it was filled with hungry lions. This would have made anyone cry out in fear, but Daniel stood there calmly. The king was not able to sleep that night thinking of this. He had to leave his favorite person inside that terrifying den filled with hungry lions. The only thing that the king could do was pray for Daniel, hoping that their God would save him. He waited until morning. When the sun started to rise, he went to the lion's den. The guards opened the entrance, and the king started to look closely inside the den for Daniel. Daniel 6:20 says, "When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice, 'Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?'" There was only silence for a long time, and the heart of the king started to beat heavily. Then he heard a voice from the den. Daniel answered, "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." The Ming was not able to believe that. Daniel was alive. He survived the harsh punishment. Darius became really happy after knowing this. Daniel was lifted out of the den as commanded by the king. Yes, Daniel was protected by God since he followed the path of faith, putting all his trust in his God. Then the king commanded that all the officials who planned such a trap against Daniel be executed. Soon the officials were thrown into the same lion's den with their families. The lions were really hungry, and they started to eat the officials as soon as they were put inside it. Darius had some sympathy towards the families of these officials, but he knew that he had served the justice. The king was finally able to experience peace after a long night filled with tension and anxiety. People started talking about this miraculous story in the streets. So many people after this incident started praying to God to seek his protection. The officials tried to manipulate the king, and now they all face the consequences for their actions. It was a brutal punishment, but it also proved how the law of the land will be upheld and how the people will be punished if they do any heinous acts. This also proved that no one, even the powerful officials, was above the law. Daniel has shown everyone what loyalty and courage are. He trusted in God and prayed 3 times a day. His faith in God was stronger than anything else, and now God came and protected him while he was in grave danger. The God did not find anything wrong. He stood by Daniel and rescued him. Daniel has now proved what an unwavering belief in God can do. The God of Daniel has served justice here. Since Darius saw the miracles that were done by Daniel's God, he ordered a new decree that would honor the God of Daniel. He wanted all the people to pray to the God of Daniel. The decree read, "For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end." The story of Daniel influenced many people. They all started to pray. This story of divine protection was passed on to the generations. What do you think about these guys? Do you think the king could have stopped the officials? Let us know your thoughts and perspectives in the comment section. If you enjoyed watching this video, Make sure you show us your love by giving us a thumbs up. And for more similar content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.